Why does anyone need to go to a therapist? Why does my kid need to go to a therapist?
Yeah.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hi, Joe and Jade.
Hello.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I really
that you're
am.
here. Yeah, me too.
It's an important topic, and I think
for sure, we need to address it. So,
Mm-hmm.
especially since we're all parents ourselves,
we're all parents and
divorced or divorcing.
We have divorce stories. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, so even more important that we create more openness to talk about these things
and
so normalizing
the topic. Yeah, normalizing it. So before we start, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Stephanie. I've got my notes here, and then I'll put them down. Stephanie Seal is a seasoned licensed God, say that 10 times fast. All right. We have Stephanie Seal here, a seasoned licensed psychotherapist with a background in clinical social work with over 2 decades of diverse experience in wellness and behavioral health. Her practice offers a transformative blend of neuroscience, mindfulness, holistic, and psychedelic assisted therapies. Stephanie's unique approach bridges evidence-based practices with holistic care and a healthy dose of personal experience and humor. We always like a little humor.
And we love humor.
Guiding clients through the emotional and logistical challenges of divorce. She provides a unique space to reimagine your life with clarity and purpose to help families not just survive, but thrive through this transition. We use that word a lot here, transition. So let's dive in, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the generous intro.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Same.
And yeah, of course it's heavy, but it doesn't have to be. I think that we can bring, shine a light on things, talk about it, get things out in the open, share stories so that I find people learn best from just hearing other people's stories sometimes. That sparks so many ideas of yours, and then it gives you clarity about how to move forward. So
and just knowing that maybe what someone's going through is not that being unique is a bad thing, but not that you're alone. It's
not alone.
It's common.
This has
it's
been
okay.
done. Yeah. This has come before.
And I guess there's
you.
also different approaches to take as well to, communicate that with your children.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot on this podcast about adults going through divorce, but what about the children going through divorce? Of course, children are not going through the divorce themselves, but they're experiencing it.
The family is going through divorce.
The
I would
family's
actually
going through
say
divorce.
they are. Yeah. The whole family unit shifts. You see family as a system. And so a change in one is a change in the whole. And really divorce is just a major restructuring of an old structure that wasn't working. That wasn't actually, like a family unit that lived in one home. That's a family structure. And if there was high conflict, if, whatever that is, there's an absence of love, that's not working for the whole. And so divorce, you can, bring a derogatory energy to it, or you can look at it as an opportunity to simply restructure your family in a way that serves everyone better. And so if that's from 2 homes, if that's in a structure where you're like the nesting model, where the kids stay in one home and the parents go back and forth, there's actually a bazillion different ways to do it. And when I was, with my own divorce story, I had no idea there was language for this. Like the term nesting, like somebody's come, but there's a way to do this, guys.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to look at all the wheels that have been invented so far and put together our own little vehicle for it.
Yep.
Right. And then also when you're dismantling a system that didn't work for your family and you're remantling something that does work, you really get to look at the foundation. You really get to see why did this fall apart? Like what are the pieces of foundation that just weren't stable enough or needed tending to, or now I can rewrite.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity. It can be an opportunity if you, have the mindset to go, okay, it's a reset. I don't like it. But here we are. And I think that often people avoid or their biggest reason not to divorce is for the kids.
Yeah.
Right. We hear that a lot. Well, I'm just going to stick it out till college until they leave the house and it should be fine. I'll just suffer through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so,
which is not often the right approach though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But why?
Oftentimes, right. So I think, for me, it was important to actually look at the research and the evidence base. That's a big deal to me. So what do we know so far? What are the long-term outcomes for adult children of divorce? And is that a reason to stay in this marriage longer? Or is it, does it give me permission to go, okay, I think there is a way to make a better life for everyone as a whole.
Yeah.
And so what I learned in the research is that it's complex. There are no like really clear answers because divorce can look so different for so many different family structures. Are there multiple children? Are there, whatever.
Even their ages.
Is there
ages? Are you a baby? Are you talking about teenagers? Or am I adult? Am my parents divorced? And how do they talk to me about it? The whole thing.
Is it a high conflict?
Is there high conflict, or did this just kind of like die quietly and we're just best friends and ships passing in the night? What's the quality? What's the flavor to it? So, what I did learn is that the two variables that have the highest correlation. So there's causation and correlation. It's hard to prove causation in research because we just don't live in a vacuum. Humans are messy. We're organic little creatures, all that kind of stuff. But you can look at research and go, okay, there's a high correlation between these two variables.
Okay.
Right? So we're not saying it's causing something, but we're saying, okay, this is clear. There's a correlation here.
What are those?
More than a coincidence.
More than a coincidence.
Yes.
Enough to establish, okay, there's a pattern.
Yeah.
And the research, the kind of in the metadata overview is that the age of the child can have an impact on the child's future outcomes. Future outcomes meaning are they going to be more inclined towards depression and anxiety as adults? Are they going to be more inclined to things like substance abuse or, difficult relationship dynamics, whether they choose to marry or not marry?
So is it showing that?
So what are the ages?
How does that correlate with the actual ages?
Specifically younger actually had a higher correlation with negative outcomes.
Really?
Because I think, and the rationale is that when they're nonverbal, you're more likely to internalize things. There's a quick phrase where facts flounder, fantasies flourish.
Okay.
With kids, when people who work with kids. So, encouraging people to be more like, hey, let's talk about it rather than not talk about it.
Oh,
right?
So when kids are small, the parents think I don't need to talk about
They're
it with them.
nonverbal.
They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So they're more I think the child is more likely to internalize whatever messages or fantasies they create, stories they create about why things happened. And I think that the reason why is that, it happened when they're young and now they're used to it. So I don't talk to my kid about it. It's just our norm. So I think the protective factor and the learning from that is that even when the separation happened when the child was young, really young and pre-verbal, and it didn't seem to impact them as much, still talk to your kids.
Yeah.
Get in there, give them the facts.
It's not just a one-off conversation that you can go, right, done that conversation.
Check.
So you kind of drew the line in the sand more about the nonverbal, because I was kind of thinking of when I got divorced with my son, I think he was around 5, 6. So he was talking, and we've had ongoing conversations still about it, which I thought was good. But are you saying that there's nothing wrong with, I guess, deciding to separate when they are younger, but make sure that you're still communicating throughout that lifetime with
exactly.
the kid.
Yeah. And then that leads me to another point. There's talking to your kids about divorce, blah, 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 blah. There's the telling your kids, if they're 5, 6, 7, those are ages when even 4, I would say, you're going to tell them, mommy and daddy are going to make a decision that's going to affect our family. We're going to live in 2 houses now instead of 1. There's the telling story, and we can get into kind of some how-tos and tips around that. But then the ongoing maintenance is checking in with your kids every once in a while, but not from a direct and maybe more of an indirect approach. And I call that noticing skills. I noticed that our first day back together after you've been at, mom's house or dad's house, it takes a while for us to kind of readjust or noticing I noticed something. I noticed that we're a little grumpy on this day, but not on this day. And just leaving things really open-ended instead of asking directly. Yeah. What's it like for you when you come back and forth between our house? You know what I mean? It's I don't know. But when you notice a little thing that just creates I noticed that too. Oh.
Stephanie, is there any research that kind of looks at more of the the gender breakdown? Because, I think of when we look at divorce for adults, I'd say typically females are going to be better communicators. I was just wondering whether or not, and maybe can move through that process quicker emotionally as well. I was just wondering if when you look at the kids, is there a similarity there as well?
That's such a good question. I don't think I isolated any research that's gender specific. I have a son and a daughter. That's a really interesting question. There's a lot of research around, and there are just obvious differences around how men and women are socialized. Our biology is different.
Yeah.
It's true. There are differences. Men in their middle age have a higher rate of completed suicide, and they have higher degrees of like social isolation. I mean, that's just a common story. Like, oh, this big thing happened to me, even, in a divorce. But I feel like I looked around and I didn't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody that I felt, whereas women have a lot of people, like a lot of social connections and a lot of like ways to talk things through, access to expression of emotions. There's so there are differences, I'm sure.
Is there any research? Oh, sorry, no, go.
Well, I guess I was going to say, so knowing that about men and women, if you have a boy and a girl, maybe you really have to be dialed in to that boy and do a lot of that noticing and make sure that you draw them out. Maybe they need extra help.
This is a really good question. What I can just share is my own personal story in terms of what happened. And when we separated, my son was, I think my daughter was in first grade and he was in TK. So that's like 4 or 5-ish and then like 6, 7-ish.
Yeah.
And so he kind of didn't get it right away. Like it impacted my daughter more emotionally. She was able to say like, I don't like missing one parent all the time. I don't like being with one. I love being with both of my parents, and I don't like, makes me feel sad to miss. But he didn't really it didn't seem to impact him as much. He was like, yeah, I'm sad, But when he got older, so 2 years later, he's like 6, 7, all of a sudden he starts expressing more emotion. Like time has passed. Yeah. So there's developmental ages. Maybe that is a gender difference. And like he had a delayed response and emotion came up later.
I think Joe's giving me that look because, it was a story that I was kind of sharing with her. My situation there was a very similar sort of trend with that where that initial reaction was, okay, but it wasn't until later on that it was like, hang on a minute. There was a lot of those other questions starting to come up like, where am I on the totem pole of being loved, or like, you love this person more than me or whatever, and it's just, and it really breaks your heart, as a parent and stuff like that, to hear that.
Yes. And so, I love that you said that. It breaks your heart to hear that because it does. And rejoice that there's an openness to express that, that you have access to that inner world, because trauma, the definition of trauma is sitting alone with material or stress. Yeah. So the fact that there can be a sharing of like, even something that's triggering to you to hear, like, oh my God, you
I think it was more about like how long had that been sitting with them until he got to the point of being able to share that. It's like, how long has that been with you then?
Yes. So, but you got access to it. And so the other quick point is we as adults infuse a lot of meaning into like, should I or shouldn't I ever feel sad, or should I or shouldn't I struggle? And so if you develop, I think, a belief system that says, you know what, humans are capable of like moving through struggle and moving through emotions. And so when you get that in and you have that underpinning belief of, there's nothing wrong with like that curiosity, sharing that, like potential misunderstanding. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you told me. You're projecting a confidence. You're reflecting your child back to themselves that like, there's nothing wrong with anything you said. In fact, now we get to address a misunderstanding, like it's a beautiful thing.
So what's your thoughts, moving on to like, how to deliver that or how to communicate that to kids? Yeah. I assume there's going to be different approaches again.
And I wanted to actually talk about the other age, right? Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like different ages process differently. And then probably the way you communicate with them is different. Yes. And then I also want to talk about what's your role as a therapist? Like, when do we bring the therapist in? Do we wait until there's a problem? Or do we, do you bring them in proactively if you know you're going to go through that divorce?
Yeah. Okay, so there's like 3 different
25,
questions there.
Sorry.
The quick answer is, so best practice, if you see this coming, or if there's just, there's a high conflict dynamic between you and your spouse, whether you've decided to separate or not, start therapy for the kids. If that is accessible to you and affordable to you, give them just a little, like a safe space. So that it's not like, oh, my parents got divorced, so now I have to go to therapy, right? Like it normalizes like, there's just like, this is like a person to talk to.
I think there's a cultural thing though, too, where some people just look down and, that's needing help. And,
yes, there's a stigma to therapy. I will say, I think that stigma is shifting.
That's good.
I will say people I think are more proudly saying like, oh, I have a therapist. I have a therapist too. I will tell you in my family, my kids both know I'm a therapist and that I have a therapist and dad has a therapist. And we talk very openly about that.
Yeah.
And both of my kids are like, ooh, I want one.
Yeah.
Like that's like a cool thing for us.
Yeah.
And so again, it just speaks to if you take the time to examine your own biases, like if I have a belief that therapy is something to be ashamed of, I'm infusing that immediately when I just use that word with my kids, I'm infusing that like underpinning. They'll pay attention to that energy. So unpack that.
Yeah, I think I'd
challenge yourself.
When I shared with my mum that I had a therapist, I felt that you could just pick up on that. And she's like, ooh, why are you needing a therapist and stuff like that? And I was like,
there's the internal bias.
I'm going through this huge change in my life here. It's like...
Yes. Well, actually, let's talk to our audience for people that are unfamiliar with therapists or don't know much about them other than what it is, you know, what a therapist is. Why does anyone need to go to a therapist? Why does my kid need to go to a therapist when I'm going through divorce?
And I'll automatically think, I don't think anybody needs therapy. I don't like that phrase at all because it's like, well, what? We just invented this thing and now you need it? Like, it's like a modern... I believe therapy is just like our modern like way of structuring social support in a focused way with somebody who... Like, you know, I am on my mountain, you're on your mountain. I think a therapist is somebody who is not immune from being on a mountain, but like maybe they've studied like, oh, I want to study tools and I want to study how to use a rope. And then I'm looking at you on your mountain. I have perspective and I can go, you know what? If you tweak just a little bit this way and hit that handhold, I see a route that way. And like, oh, have you used like a pick before? This is how it works. Or have you seen a carabiner before?
Yeah.
This is how that works. So I really see therapy as just like, there's a subset of strange humans in this world who like or find like, you know, a lot of purpose in being a healer or in a growth role. And I think that we've had versions of therapy in different, you know, societal structures. And this is just what it looks like in a modern world. I don't think people can heal without some form of relationship. I think we heal in relationship and the therapy is a relationship.
Yep.
I think that it's really no different than just like hiring like a guide. Like I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. Like I'm going to also hire a guide maybe, or maybe I'm the person who wants to study and figure out how to do it on my own.
But why can't I just talk my best friend's ear off?
Well,
why can't I just do that?
You can. Sometimes what happens is you get into like a little reinforcement loop of validation and righteousness, and that can actually keep you stuck in the same patterning and the same mindset that perpetuates the problem. So it is really nice, I think, to have somebody who's way far from your mountain, but who's also studied mountains.
Yeah.
And has specialized equipment.
Yes.
And can say like, this is what I see. Here are your patterns. Here's a way that you could actually break that pattern. Here's a way to accept kind of the radical acceptance of the situation. And like, you know what? I call it like a strange left step, right? Like what's an unexpected thing that you would never see yourself doing right now that actually might interrupt some things that are going on that you feel are just repeating over and over again.
Can we talk about the different types of therapy depending on the child's age? Because I know when I put my oldest in therapy, I think she was 5. So it was a play therapy.
Yes.
And then when she went back a few years later, it was more talking.
Yes.
Maybe still some elements of play, but definitely different. So again, for those of our audience that are not as familiar, like what's my 3-year-old going to do in therapy?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, play and imagination is a neuroplastic agent. So kids learn through play. That's a thing because imagination unlocks there's a neurochemistry to that. It creates change faster. It creates learning faster, and adults can harness that. But with kids, they're not as verbal yet. They're more nonverbal. So they communicate through behaviors, through acting out, through play. That's just the natural learning style of a child. So the younger the child is, the more, that's the modality. Play therapy, nonverbal kind of things, sand tray play.
And it can still be effective though. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's extremely effective. And I'll add this too, just another personal anecdote. When we told our kids we were divorcing or separating, our preschool director gave me the best idea at the time, and it's to set up like physical figurines. And while you're talking out what the change is going to be, like we're going to live here and there, actually set up little structures and walk it out because kids are also concrete. very, very concrete. So my son was like, wait, but what if we're both here and you guys are here and you forget about us? He never would have been able to explain his little worry and question had we not been acting out
the little Legos.
With the little figurines. So that's just like a quick tip. But that's why, again, play therapy, you're playing, you're acting things out. You're also doing something called depersonalizing. So sometimes it's hard for kids to speak directly about things, but like, oh, here's a fictional mommy and a daddy and like another like baby and another sister.
It's not me, it's not us, but it's someone
they can externalize the dynamic much easier and get and access what their little worries are and what's on their hearts a little easier. And so then, that's natural as a child grows. They are becoming more verbal. They can express themselves more effectively. They have a more nuanced understanding of language and relationship. So then it becomes rapport. So that's probably, I think as a parent, if you have a teenager in therapy.
I was going to say a tween or a teen. How do parents break the news? How do parents tell their older children what's happening? And how do they check in?
Authentically and honestly, and just with that kind of unloaded language.
What if I hate my spouse? Am I being honest about that?
That's such a good question. All right. So let's circle back. Spouse. Yeah, let's circle back to the research.
He's such a jerk.
Yeah, I'm so glad. That's perfect. So we talked about one high correlate is the age, like younger actually has negative, negative outcomes. The other one is high conflict relationships has by and large the most clear variable in like all of the divorce research on outcomes, a negative impact on children.
And when you say negative impact on children, what do you mean though?
High rates of depression, anxiety, high rates of substance abuse, high rates of, it's really, it's hard on family structures unless there's good support. Yeah. So, if you hate your spouse, it's time to talk to your teens about like, your da-da-da-da. Teens have seen it, like they've watched it unfold. So it's not like you're holding any secrets. They're like, they get it.
I think my sister in Australia, when she went through her divorce, it was her eldest or her daughter who actually came over and said, I think you guys need to live apart.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an abusive relationship or anything like that, physically or verbally, but she could just see that they had kind of grown apart there. Like they started dating in like straight out of school or in school.
That's powerful.
But it was like that child who was, around that 10 who could already see it.
They could see it.
And whether, my sister and her ex just thought they should be staying together for the benefit of the kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting to see that child come up and say, you know what, it's all good. We'll be fine.
The honesty of children. Yeah.
But what can you say without being toxic?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to examine that. And that would be an argument to say like maybe get into some therapy so you can like examine like what your beliefs about the other person is. So when you split children, like a child is one part dad and one part mom. So when you are talking crap about the other person, you are creating harm you're creating division and harm within that person, that child. Mm-hmm. So, don't split your kids. If you're tempted to talk crap about your spouse, put a picture of your child on their face and be like, imagine I'm saying this to my child. That is the harm that you're causing.
It's unfortunately you do see people doing that and it's just.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of harm are you causing if you talk poorly of your spouse?
I mean, you're talking poorly about a part of your child. Mm-hmm. You are. And I would even flip it. It's not about not talking, like not telling the truth about what really happened. It's about creating a way for your child to have an equal, beautiful relationship with all parts of them. Mm-hmm. Even, like a crappy partner can be a great parent. Mm-hmm. That is a truth. Two things can be true, and that can be true. Yeah. And you're going to want your child to have a good relationship with mom. You're going to want your child to have a good relationship with their father. Now, are they going to be disappointed in their parents sometimes? Yes. Yeah. Can you say that's just dad? Yeah, that's just mom. Like you're fine. We're all like we restructured and here we are. And you can have a good relationship with both of us and never have a loyalty bind to either one of us. If a child feels like they have to protect one or the other parent, that sets up a lot of problems down the road. So really just...
Thank you.
It's a lot, I know.
Thanks, Stephanie.
We did our best.
Where did that time go?
Well, I think we're at divorce this or that, don't you think?
Yeah, I think we're
going to challenge you, Stephanie, with a hard question.
Oh, boy.
that we play every week and when we do a recording, and we want to include our guests in it too.
We like to stump our guests.
And we'll let you go first.
I've seen this tradition. So
okay,
I had a little heads up. I was like, oh, they might do. Okay,
yeah.
I'm ready.
All right.
What is it?
So
what loyalty bind?
Yeah. All right.
Divorce, this or that.
All right. So we've got a doozy.
Stephanie.
Oh boy.
So you've got a divorce, either going through your divorce, you're seeking the guidance and support of a therapist, or because of your family's views on therapy
and friends, you belong to, you like live in a small community, very small community,
or blank, whatever,
very small community that hates therapy.
Yeah, or they don't see the value of it. They think
it's weird. It's for quacks.
Yeah, okay, that's right. That if you don't do the therapy, you get to keep your family, your friends to support you, so it's supporting you. And they're going to give you $5 million.
You just need
your
money.
family's going to give you $5 million to not go to therapy.
Correct. That's
because
right.
That's for quacks. You're going to look like a crazy person.
That's going to embarrass our family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all you need is money to get through this.
Yeah, you can just move on. Just find someone else.
Yep. Or
you can go to therapy.
So this or
yeah.
And then if you go to therapy, you don't get the $5 million from your family,
and you might get canceled. Maybe,
and
you might get canceled.
This is a loyalty bind, guys. Wow. Yeah. First of all, there's a name for that. That's called the golden handcuffs.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna go that. I think freedom is always more valuable than money. I don't disagree that money does solve problems. Like, I'm not gonna say that wouldn't make a divorce, resolve. The fact is, you all live beyond that.
Yeah.
Your kids are not just kids. They're going to be adult. Like, you all, like, life keeps going. And so, you're leaving, you're choosing to disrupt a structure, like to divorce, like at the whole structure of your family. That's a step towards freedom. It's towards walking away from something that didn't work for you. So, I'm going to say break the golden handcuffs and go towards freedom, because that is a longer lasting
therapy
payoff. But I'm biased. Very biased.
What about you, Joe?
I might go through some loopholes. If I might be honest, some loopholes. So I'll be like, all right, $5 million. Let's pay our lawyers. I'll pay hubby's lawyer, my lawyer. Let's get this done really quickly. And then we're all moving. We're all moving to another.
And then we're like, and then I'm
going to get the best therapist.
All on the sign.
And it's confidential, so nobody needs to talk about it. So we're gonna. I'm even gonna move the spouse. I'll give him $500,000. I'll give him his own house. Let's go.
Yeah.
You're being deceptive, like I was going to go. So I was going to take the money because they've shown their true colors now. So I'm going to have to watch out for my family. Yeah. They're obviously not the people who I thought they were. So
yeah.
And then I'm going to secretly enroll in an online therapy class and get connected with some like-minded people.
This is the real reason.
And go to like some like secretive like groups where I can seek that guidance and
I'm still going to pay
hopefully
a
don't get
therapist.
Well, I didn't know you could
have an alias.
I feel like that's cheating. You're like choosing both, right?
Well, it's not cheating.
Or that.
Well, Stephanie, that's your view on it.
All right.
It wasn't cheating.
This is fair.
It's just a little out of order.
We've been playing this game quite a while, so we know how to maybe tweak it a little.
And now I'm wise to it.
But it was $5 million, Stephanie.
I would have
liked $100. I would have gone.
I would have liked to have therapy during the divorce. I just have to wait. I just have to wait a little bit.
So you guys are fantastic.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We talked today about the impact of divorce and separation on children. Hopefully you picked up some good tips. And
if not, $5 million.
Or $5 million.
Or $5 million.
Yes, that's right. Or
and still get therapy at the end of it.
Thanks for joining us, Steph.
It
was really great.
All right, I'm Joe.
And I'm Jade.
We'll see you next time.